Spartan Cafe, where ambition meets action. Oh yeah, you're in the right place.
All right, let's dive in today. Today's going to be fun. You know how we usually dig into like news and research? This time we're going full what if, and it's a fun one. We're talking Thomas Edison.
Okay.
But not the Thomas Edison that, from history books.
Yeah.
We're imagining him alive and kicking in the 21st century.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and just thinking about like the possibilities, it gets pretty wild.
Yeah.
We've actually got some excerpts about kind of imagining this modern day Edison. And we also have this cool article from Spartan Cafe called Thomas Edison, the Silicon Valley pioneer who never was.
I love that title.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
So get ready. It's going to be a fascinating ride.
It's so interesting to think about these figures, like the big historical giants.
Right.
I mean, we always think about them in the past, but to imagine Edison and his energy and just all that drive in today's world.
Oh my gosh, it'd be crazy. I mean, we're not even talking about him tinkering in a garage or anything like that.
Right.
The sources we have paint him as like a mega mogul. Yeah, like we're talking Thomas Edison, founder and CEO of Edison Innovations.
Whoa.
I know. And his tagline, get this, innovating a sustainable future for all.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And are you ready for his net worth?
Okay.
Potentially over $100 billion.
Whoa.
It's not monopoly money, so like it really shows the scale of just how much impact he could have.
That's what's so cool about thinking about it in this way. It's not just his money scale up, but it's like his thinking scaled up.
Totally.
Like, he wouldn't just be improving light bulbs or something.
No.
He'd be going after whole industries. Like, what comes to mind? Sustainable energy, for sure.
Yeah. The guy who lit up cities with electricity would be all over solar power, wind energy, everything.
Everything.
His company, called Edison Solar Tech, according to what we're reading, would be a huge player, maybe even giving Tesla a run for its money.
It's so cool to think about his knowledge of electricity from back then and apply it to today's problems. Like, imagine him looking at the power grid and everything and trying to make renewable energy not just sustainable, but also really reliable.
And our sources actually update one of his famous quotes, which I thought was cool.
Oh, which one?
So instead of it being, we will make electricity so cheap that only the rich will burn candles.
Right.
It's, we will make solar power so efficient that only the rich will pay utility bills.
It's so true. I mean, that's totally something he would say.
Yeah, bold, but that was Edison.
And it makes you think about how different his focus would be. Back then it was all about individual technologies.
Right.
But today, he would be going after these huge problems, these systemic things that need to be changed.
Okay, so we've got Edison taking on energy with solar, but it doesn't stop there. The article says he'd be all over artificial intelligence and automation.
Really?
Yeah, Edison AI Labs.
Ooh.
I know, right?
He was really fascinated with machines and efficiency, so I could definitely see him working with AI and robots.
Oh.
But I think the key here is that he would be focused on practical AI.
Not just theory, but things that actually help people.
Yeah, things that make a difference.
Exactly. So like AI-powered assistants, smarter homes, maybe AI that helps doctors, things like that.
Exactly. Solving everyday problems and just making life better. But knowing Edison, he wouldn't just stop there.
Oh, no.
He would think bigger citywide, even...
You mean his work with smart cities?
Yes. Edison City Innovations.
I know. It sounds so futuristic.
So futuristic. The man who brought light to cities would now be making them intelligent.
Wow.
Integrating all the things. Renewable energy,
Yeah.
AI traffic systems, you name it.
It's really like taking his original vision and just upgrading it for the 21st century.
Completely.
I mean, think about it. Reduced traffic, less pollution, personalized city services.
Amazing.
I know, but it's important to remember that for Edison, it's not just about cool technology.
Right.
It's about improving people's lives in a real way. Okay, are you ready for this next one? Because this is the one I did not see coming.
Right.
Biotech and health.
Really?
Yes. It's like he wouldn't be content with just light bulbs and robots. He'd be diving into the human body with this company called Edison Biosolutions.
I mean, when you think about it, it makes sense. He was always curious about how things work
Oh, yeah.
and what's more complex than us.
Right.
Plus, he lived in a time before, antibiotics were a thing. He saw how bad diseases could be.
That's true. So we could be talking about medical technology breakthroughs, personalized gene therapies, AI diagnostics, who knows?
Wow.
It's a lot, but it'd be incredible if he could help us live longer, healthier lives.
It really shows you there were no limits to his curiosity and his need to solve problems. He wouldn't be held back by anything.
This is all so incredible to think about. We've got him tackling energy, AI, smart cities, even biotech. But how would he actually make it all happen? What kind of business strategies would a 21st century Thomas Edison use?
Well, based on what we know, continuous innovation would have to be his core strategy. He wouldn't stop at one breakthrough. He would be constantly experimenting, coming up with new ideas.
I mean, he was famous for saying, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
Exactly.
That kind of resilience would be so valuable today.
Absolutely. He wouldn't be afraid to fail, but he'd be smart about it, Learn from his mistakes and keep going.
Our sources also talk about vertical integration as a key strategy.
Okay.
Back in the day, he controlled everything, from manufacturing to distribution.
Oh, wow.
So it seems like that control would be even more important now in such a complex market.
It makes sense. To really make his vision a reality and to keep things high quality, he'd want to be involved in every step.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget industry disruption.
Of course not.
Edison wasn't afraid to shake things up back then, and he would definitely be a force to be reckoned with in the 21st century.
For sure. He'd be going head-to-head with today's biggest companies.
Oh, yeah. He wouldn't be satisfied with just small improvements. He'd be looking for those big, game-changing innovations.
Like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk.
Exactly. And last but not least, we have to talk about global scalability. Edison always wanted to bring his inventions to the whole world.
Right.
That kind of ambition would be so crucial in today's global economy.
Absolutely. He wouldn't just want to build a successful company. He'd want to have a global impact.
Totally. So we've got a picture of someone who never stops innovating, embraces failure, controls his business, disrupts industries, and thinks globally. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, very impressive.
But let's go a little deeper. What about the man behind the companies? What kind of thinking would guide a 21st century Thomas Edison?
Well, I think his focus on problem solving would definitely stay the same. Nothing would stop him.
He wouldn't be intimidated by anything.
No.
Remember that quote, "There's a way to do it, better find it."
Yes.
That's totally his mindset. He wouldn't be satisfied with good enough.
He'd always be searching for something better.
Exactly. More efficient, more elegant, you name it.
I love that.
He wouldn't accept limits, and he'd push everyone around him to find those better ways.
And that's such a good lesson for all of us, I think.
I agree.
So we're back thinking about a 21st century Thomas Edison.
Yeah, and with all these potential companies, Edison Solar Tech, Edison AI Labs, Edison City Innovations.
That's a lot, right?
It's like a whole empire of futuristic tech.
But remember, it's not about the inventions themselves. It's about what made him tick,
Yeah, those timeless principles.
Exactly. And one of the biggest takeaways for me is his focus on scalable solutions.
Totally. He wouldn't be happy with just helping a few people. It had to be big.
He was always thinking globally.
Yeah, like that quote, "Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time."
He would never stop until it could help as many people as possible.
And that ties into another lesson, making sustainability a core part of everything.
Oh, for sure. For Edison, it wouldn't be an afterthought or something you just slap on. It would be built into his innovations from the very beginning.
It wouldn't be a separate thing. It would just be how he does things.
Exactly. And it wouldn't be just about renewable energy, but also the whole life cycle of his products,
Like, where did the materials come from? What happens when people are done with them?
To like reduce, reuse, recycle, but on a whole other level.
And that's something we can all learn from, even in our daily lives.
It's about thinking long-term, not just for quick wins.
And speaking of long-term, that's another big lesson from Edison.
Yeah, he was willing to invest in ideas that might take years to really pay off.
He knew that real innovation takes time and patience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He wouldn't get distracted by trends. He was playing the long game, building something that would last.
Like planting a tree knowing you might not see it fully grown, but knowing it'll be there for others.
I like that analogy. And that brings us to another key point, the importance of practical application.
Right. It's not enough to have a great idea. It has to actually work in the real world.
Edison wasn't interested in ideas that just sat on a shelf.
Yeah.
He wanted to see his inventions out there making a difference.
So it's about asking, how will this make people's lives better?
Exactly. He would be obsessed with getting his inventions into people's hands.
Okay, so we've got these 4 big lessons: scalable solutions, sustainability, long-term vision, and practical application.
It's like a blueprint for innovation.
Totally. But
Yeah.
even with the best plan, innovation isn't always easy, right?
Right. There will always be challenges.
Especially now, with how fast technology is changing.
It's mind-boggling. Since Edison's time, things have exploded. AI, cloud computing, blockchain, nanomaterials.
It's a lot to keep up with.
Imagine him trying to understand social media. The speed of information now,
It'd be a lot to take in.
even for someone as smart as Edison.
So do you think all this complexity would overwhelm him?
I think he'd be a little overwhelmed at first, sure. But he was so good at taking in information, connecting the dots, finding patterns where others saw chaos.
Maybe he'd see this as an opportunity.
Yeah, like necessity is the mother of invention. The bigger the problem, the more creative you have to be.
That's where he'd really shine. Okay, complexity is one thing, but what about competition? There's so much more of it now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just look at renewable energy. He'd be up against Tesla, all the big traditional energy companies.
And in AI, he'd have Google, Microsoft, Amazon to deal with.
It's like a whole army of Goliaths.
So how would he handle that? Would he try to outspend everyone?
I don't think so. He'd have to be smarter, faster, more strategic.
He always challenged the status quo. Maybe he'd find a niche market or create something totally new.
And don't forget his work ethic. Remember, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. He'd be willing to outwork everyone.
That's for sure. Okay, so we've got complexity, competition. What about regulations? They're so much stricter now, especially for things like AI and biotech.
That's a good point. Things are so different from when he could just tinker in his workshop.
Imagine him trying to get approval for a gene therapy or a self-driving car.
It would be a nightmare.
Right.
He'd definitely need a good legal team. But knowing Edison, he wouldn't just sit back. He'd try to shape the rule, advocate for smart policies.
He was a master at getting people on his side. Maybe he'd become a voice for the future of technology.
It's possible. And we can't forget about public perception. Everything spreads so fast now. One bad story on social media could ruin everything.
Oh, definitely. Look at all the debates around AI, people worried about jobs, bias, all that.
And in biotech, there are the ethical concerns about gene editing, living longer.
These are big issues that can get very heated very quickly.
Edison would have to be careful. He'd need to be open and honest, explain his innovations in a way people understand.
He was great at explaining things, telling stories. He'd have to use those skills to build trust.
He might even work with ethicists, community leaders, to make sure his inventions were used responsibly.
So it seems like a 21st century Edison would face a whole new set of challenges, but I think he'd find a way.
Yeah, his curiosity, his problem-solving skills, his belief in innovation, they would all help him adapt.
He'd be like a chameleon, changing with the times.
And maybe he'd inspire a whole new generation of innovators.
To think bigger, to push boundaries.
Exactly.
So we've reached the end of part 2 of our deep dive into the world of a modern-day Thomas Edison.
We've explored the challenges he might face, from the rapid pace of technology to the complexities of regulation and public opinion.
But we've also seen how his principles of innovation and his determination would help him overcome these hurdles.
In part 3, we're going to shift gears and talk about the bigger picture. How would Edison's presence in the 21st century change society as a whole? What ethical dilemmas might we face? And what lessons can we learn from his legacy? Stay tuned.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Thomas Edison in the 21st century.
It's been quite a ride imagining him in today's world.
Yeah, from those potential companies to all the challenges he might face. But now I'm thinking, what kind of legacy would he leave?
That's a great question. How would his innovations shape the future?
It's like predicting the future, but maybe we can make some guesses.
Based on his personality, his drive, his belief in technology, we can try.
Okay, so let's start with sustainable energy. If Edison Solar Tech really took off, what would that world look like?
Imagine clean energy that's affordable and available everywhere, for everyone. It would change everything, not just the environment.
We'd be talking about less pollution, a more stable climate, but it's bigger than that, right?
It's about progress. Clean energy helps communities grow, improves health. It's hard to overstate how much of a positive impact it would have.
Like a ripple effect, one good thing leads to another. Okay, so we've got a world powered by Edison Solar. What about AI and automation? How would those change our lives?
Well, if those practical AI systems from Edison AI Labs became reality, we might see a huge shift in how we work, learn, even just live our daily lives.
Imagine AI assistants that help us with everything, personalize our education. It's like having a super smart helper all the time.
And think about healthcare AI. AI could help doctors diagnose better, create personalized treatments, discover new drugs.
It's amazing, but we have to be careful, right?
Absolutely. We have to think about the ethics of AI, make sure it's used responsibly, and doesn't create more inequality.
That's where Edison's focus on practicality would be so important. He wouldn't just want to create cool tech. It had to actually benefit people.
Exactly. Solving real problems and making life better. Okay, let's move on to smart cities. What if Edison City innovations really took off? How would our cities change?
Imagine cities that are completely connected, with smart traffic systems that reduce congestion and pollution, infrastructure that adapts to problems, personalized services.
It's like a city that's alive, constantly learning and improving.
But to build a city like that, it takes more than just technology.
Oh, definitely. It needs collaboration between everyone, the planners, the people who live there, everyone working together.
It's about making technology work for people, not the other way around. Okay, last but not least, biotech and health. What if Edison Biosolutions really made those breakthroughs we talked about?
Think about personalized medicine becoming the standard, diseases detected early, gene therapies that cure things we thought were incurable.
We could live longer, healthier lives. It's exciting, but also a little scary, right?
Yeah, we'd have to think about the implications of living longer, the ethics of gene editing, making sure everyone has access to these advancements.
But I think Edison would be up for those challenges. He wouldn't be afraid of the tough questions.
He'd want us to have open discussions, be ethical, and use these technologies to help people.
Progress with a purpose. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we're left with a vision of the future that's both amazing and a little uncertain.
It's a future shaped by technology, but also by the choices we make.
I think Edison would remind us that innovation isn't just about inventing, it's about creating the future we want.
It's a responsibility we all share. What kind of world do we want? How can we use our creativity to build a better future?
Those are great questions to think about. Thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope it's inspired you to keep exploring and innovating.
And to never stop asking questions. See you next time.